receive a lot of questions about work and life and everything in between. So we're going to discuss these topics today. And I'm going to introduce you to these beautiful ladies. First we have Miss Erica Dickerson. Then we have Michelle Phan. And of course, Dana Gagliardi.
So,
I'm
we have here the crystal bowl.
Ooh, lots of options. Okay.
Which one?
I don't know, what should I go for?
Whichever one
Cupcakes?
feels right.
Oh, this one
Cupcakes feels right.
Cupcakes
Yeah,
always
cupcakes
feels
always
right. Okay, so let's see. The theme is business relationships. This is tricky.
Okay.
The first question is, do you believe in work friends? Why or why not? All right, who wants to?
Corporate world or startup world? See, that's two completely.
totally.
Yeah. I feel like in the startup world, because a startup is a company where they're literally starting up. That's why they call it a startup, and it feels more like a family. Everyone's pitching in. They're wearing many different hats, and so I find that a lot of my friends that I make at like a startup company, I vibe with them much more than a corporate company.
Right.
Especially for people who've been there for a long time, and for them, like some of them, they see it as a ladder. It's like they just climb up this ladder, and you're just a stepping stone to them. And it took me a while to find like 1 to 2 friends in the corporate world. But those friends are like amazing. Like you hold on, like Lynette, for example. You hold on to that person. Yeah, she's the best, right? So I think it is possible to have work friends. I just think it's also very important to draw the boundaries and know that when when you're clocked off, don't talk about work. Try not to talk about work as much, I know like it's really hard to not talk about work, but I think it's also important if you have a friendship outside of work, you should do things that are outside of work,
No, yeah, that's actually, I think, the most important thing. A lot of people, they think they're friends with someone, but what they do is when they're not working, they're just talking about working or how much they don't like what they're doing at work.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not really a friendship.
No.
It's just a common kind of
Interest that we have.
thing that you have. So when you eliminate work, so say you quit your job and then you really see, okay, are we really hanging out still? Like, is this person really my friend? So I think it's possible. I just, you've just got to, draw those boundaries, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to go into work and feel happy and see people that you enjoy being around. So in that aspect, I do think
always
it's
good.
nice, But you do have to draw that line and set that boundary. And like you said, you can't just talk about, complain about your boss or how much you hate work. You got to focus on other things outside of that
Exactly.
to really build that connection with somebody.
Like you can't get super drunk and trash face with your boss. I mean,
That doesn't work.
it's just not appropriate. Like you have to know like when it's appropriate to be cool with your coworkers. Like I can get like sending an email like, yo, like this is a super funny link and just adding it on there. But you have to also know like there are certain boundaries. Like if there's a president of a company, there is a sense of respect. Like you should address them by their name unless they say otherwise.
No, I think that's a really good point because you have to know what your position is in relation to who your coworker is. And there are some coworkers that you can send those funny links to, and there are those coworkers where you do not want to do that. Just no. Not even when you're drunk, just don't do it. Don't sign on to your email, yeah. But that's the hard thing about making work friends, you have to get to know them, and then you have to make that judgment call, can I be friends with this person? And then make those efforts to do non-work related things like actually go out and have a drink and not talk about work.
Yeah,
for
go
once.
to the movies or go shopping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, shopping's always good for girls. Shopping's the easiest one for girls.
What do guys do?
I don't know. Play video games?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll play you, online.
Yeah, sports games. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good start. Mm-hmm. It's a safe start, and then you can build from there.
All right, who wants the next question?
I will take the next question since I'm closest to you. Have you dated someone at work? Would you recommend it? I think there's a rule at L'Oreal where you're not supposed to date your coworker. I've seen that in a contract somewhere. So I know like there are some workplaces where you shouldn't. It's very frowned upon because it's conflict of interest. I can understand, but that's really tricky. I've never dated anyone at work.
I don't recommend it.
Why?
Well, first of all, like not even just from my own personal perspective, but from my imagination, you know, what if you work with a coworker and neither of you plan to quit for a while and things go badly? Because sometimes things go badly, you know, you can have the best intentions and you can just end up hating the person that you're with for one or many reasons. And I just think for your own sanity, you should not date someone that you work with.
No, you see them at work and you go home and you see them again.
No.
Speaking from personal experience,
It's about to get juicy up in here.
I highly do not recommend this. It's not a good idea ever. Don't ever do it, ever. You know, I mean, you know, in a perfect world, everything works out and you guys, you know, live happily ever after, but that's not going to happen most of the time. So, I mean, you know, I will say I have friends that have dated people at work and then, you know, it doesn't work out and they're able to be cordial and be friendly. And, you know, that's very rare, I think. You both have to be mature, and usually if it's not working out, it's because one of you is lacking something. So I know for me it wasn't necessarily a good call, and I definitely learned my lesson, and I would definitely not recommend it if you can.
Well, Ray said I would always have that big fear of it just not like working out and it just getting so messy. But you also have to think about the kind of person that you are. Like, are you somebody who is big enough to, you know, brush it off and act like not like everything's okay, but, you know, the big person about it? Or are you immature and are you gonna wanna like, oh my God, who is he talking to? Like, and you know,
Be a brat about it.
Exactly, you kind of have to really look at yourself and be like, okay, like, will I be able to deal with it if it doesn't work out?
That should almost be a disclaimer before you date them, like a mental disclaimer popping up in your head before, like when you see your coworker and you're starting to like him, like the first disclaimer, if you break up with him, are you gonna act like this? Are you gonna be okay? Yada, 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 yada.
You're gonna be a psycho.
Yeah.
A lot of disclaimers that you don't know what they're gonna do. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So you can be the most mature person in the world, me, and you know, you don't ever really know how someone else is gonna react. So
So you take that gamble.
That's true.
So it's
All for love.
it is
Yep, love is a gamble sometimes.
lust.
Lust
Lust is definitely a gamble.
All right, should we move on to the next question?
The last question I will give to you, Erica.
Okay, let's see. How do you balance your public and private persona? I think it's pretty simple. I think, you know, your public persona, I mean, a lot of us live our persona via, you know, the internet, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. So, I mean, you have so much control. You really do. You don't have to post every little thing that you think or that you're doing, or when you're hurt, or that quote that clearly makes everyone know you're going through something. You know, I love to read those ones. But you know, there's a way to like keep your privacy. I think if like the biggest movie stars in the world, for example, like a Ben Affleck or a Matt Damon, they're some of the biggest movie stars in the world. I don't know what they're doing in their life.
Yeah.
But then there's other ones that I know everything that they're doing, and I think, I don't want to say they bring it upon themselves, but in a certain capacity, they do. Like they've sought out that attention, and then once you start that ball rolling, it's kind of hard to slow it down.
Yeah.
So.
And you can't be private from that because people are so used to you being open, and so when you're closing the book, it's like, what the F? Like I saw you naked, and now now you don't even want me to see your pictures, and they get offended by that, and so like they do bring it upon themselves.
Yeah, you have to set that precedent, because I know I'm a very private person. The kind of videos that I post on my channel, I try to curate them so that they're the most professional and they send the message to my brands and my viewers. So this kind of conversation is not generally what I share with people who watch my work. So for me, you know, private and public are two entirely different entities. So most of my viewers would probably be surprised to see me being this open, because I don't really ever talk about my personal life. So that's why I think it is good to draw those boundaries.
Yeah, it's good to have a little bit of mystery. You know, like why shouldn't we celebrate more mystery? You know, especially like saving something that's sacred for someone special. And I will have to say, how do you keep your online persona different than your personal life? I agree with you. Like everything that we put online, we edit it. So in a sense, when I meet someone that says, "Oh, I'm different online than offline," I think it's BS. Like it's such BS. Like no, Hollywood is different. I
Yeah.
can understand because, you know, there's a show and you have to be a certain talent and you have to take a certain role, but when you're online and you're a public figure, you're just yourself, but you're famous online. And so you have to already know your branding already. And so when someone says, well, I'm not like that offline, I think, well, that's really irresponsible because the online world, it's all about keeping things authentic and genuine. And so it's really confusing for people when you say you're this person online, but you're not that person offline. It's really confusing. And so I think some people, they kind of have to like reevaluate what they're posting online. And I feel like, you know, you can say a lot of things like, oh, but I have integrity, I'm this person, I'm that person, but what you post online is really what people see. So what people see, of course, they're going to judge you on what they see.
Right.
So I think that's why it's important to like, kind of like separate it.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely want to keep it separated, but you also want to be consistent because, like you were saying, you want that to be authentic and you want people to see the real you, and you're only showing people snippets of your life.
Yep.
And it's edited and it's cut down to 3, 4, 5 minutes. So you really just, I try to always be as authentic as possible and then just let that reflect on my work.
Yeah, I think
And in
that's a
everyday
great
life,
plan.
yeah.
Yeah. I learned so much from you
Yeah,
guys.
it's been so much fun.
All right. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on the next one to see more.
All right, guys, if you want to watch the previous topic, just click right here. And the next video, just click right here. And this beautiful DIY, no sewing required pillow that I'm sitting on or laying on, you can learn how to recreate this by clicking on this pillow.